Imagine someone tells you they found a business where they can buy hotel rooms cheaply, then resell those rooms to an airline for a huge profit, right? It sounds good, like a business idea, like a good business idea. But that's not the crazy part. The crazy part is that now imagine you trust them with your money. You invest your money, your friends invest, your family, people you've known for years invest. But then the investigators discovered that the business isn't what it appears to be. This is the story of Denny Bhakta, a San Diego businessman whose investment scheme involved about $35 billion and eventually ended with a federal conviction and a sentence of almost 20 years in prison. Hmm. The strange part is the business actually sounded believable. Then Bata ran companies called Fusion Hotel Management and Fusion Hospitality Corporation. According to the evidence presented at trial, Bata told investors that this company had a very simple way of making money. He said his company will buy large blocks of hotel rooms from Hilton at discounted prices. Then, those rooms would supposedly be sold to United Airlines and other companies at a higher price. So basically, buy the room cheaply, sell them for more, keep the profit. Okay. It sounds simple. And if someone showed you documents that appeared to prove the business was making millions of dollars, you might believe the opportunity was real. And that's where the scheme became more convincing. eh, Because Bacta didn't make those promises, just promises. According to prosecutors, he gave investors documents that appeared to support those promises: bank statements, contracts, profit and loss statements. Documents that appeared to show millions of dollars in revenue and profit. But investigators eventually discovered that those documents have been fabricated. According to evidence presented at trial, investors' money was being used for other things, and one of those things was gambling. This is where the story gets crazy. Prosecutors presented casino records during the trial, showing that Bacta repeatedly took investors' money to casinos. And in 2018, during one of 7.5 hour gambling sessions, in one gambling session, prosecutors said Bacta lost approximately $1 million. That's crazy. Prosecutor also presented evidence that he had been flown to Las Vegas on the Wing private jet, and the casino record showed that millions of dollars of investors' money were gambled away, while the investors believed their money was being used to buy hotel rooms and generate business profit. Prosecutors said the money was actually being diverted for gambling, payments to other investors, and personal expenses. But there was another problem. When you are running a scheme like this, you need money coming in, because once investors start asking for their money back, you need somewhere to get the money from. And that is where the scheme took another layer. This wasn't just about strangers who met Bacta online. Some of these victims were people who knew him personally. His elderly uncle invested approximately $4.5 million. Wow. A childhood friend lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. A family friend lost $1.6 million. A high school classmate and a father together lost more than $800,000. That's crazy. A cousin lost $40,000. And 88-year-old investor lost $50,000. His uncle later testified in court. He said that when he came to the United States, he arrived with only a suitcase and $8 in his pocket. After 57 years in America, he testified that because of the fraud, he had lost everything he had worked for. And that makes this case much more disturbing because these weren't just people responding to a random advertisement. They were people who trusted him. And according to the prosecutor, that trust was used to get their money. By 2021, federal prosecutors had charged Bhakta in connection with the investment scheme. At that point, the charges were allegation and he was presumed innocent. The original case allegedly that the scheme had taken at least $28 million from investors since 2016. Prosecutors said the fabricated documents had been used to make it appear that Fusion was buying hotel rooms from Hilton and selling them to United Airlines. They also alleged that investors' money had been moved through casino accounts and used for personal expenses and payment to other investors. But the investigation didn't stop there because investigators discovered another part of the story. And this time around, it involved money that had been provided to businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2020, Bhakta applied for multiple paycheck protection program loans. According to the Justice Department, he applied for 18 separate PPP loans totaling about $4.4 million. Prosecutors said the application contained false information. They also said that fake W-2 and IRS documents were created and that the names and personal information of some of his investors' victims were used to claim that they were employees of businesses under his control. The government said that Bhakta used more than $4.4 million he received to help keep the investment scheme going and to continue gambling. So now investigators weren't just looking at an investment fraud, they were also looking at fraudulent COVID relief loans. And this case was becoming much more bigger. Eventually, the case went to federal court. We're not just talking about someone who was simply accused and never convicted. A federal judge found him guilty on all 25 counts. After the verdict, he was taken into custody. And on February 28, 2025, Denny Bhakta was sentenced to 235 months in federal custody. That's almost 20 years. The Justice Department said that the overall fraud scheme involved approximately $35 million. The court sentence came after the jury's conviction on all 25 counts. Hmm. Think about how this started: a business opportunity, hotel rooms, airline contract, supposed profit, documents that appear to prove everything was legitimate, and people trusted him with their money. But according to the evidence presented at trial, behind that appearance was a massive fraud scheme involving millions of dollars, fake documents, gambling, and COVID relief funds. And COVID relief fraud. The interesting part about this case it is how convincing the opportunity appeared to be. Because scam doesn't always look like scams. Sometimes they look like a business. Sometimes they come with contract. Sometimes they come with bank statements. Sometimes it is the person asking you for money that you already know. And that's exactly what makes cases like this so disturbing. Because the question isn't only how did somebody steal that amount of money? The question is how many people trusted the story before they realized the story wasn't real. This is the story of the $35 million hotel investment fraud that ended with Denny Bhakta being convicted on all 25 counts and sentenced to almost 20 years in federal prison. If you enjoy real cases like this, if you enjoy real cases explained in a simple way, subscribe because there are plenty more stories where the truth is stranger than you would expect. Bye. See you in the next one.